This part of the element packet is focusing on the element of texture. And so what you're going to do is gather 3 different objects together and then really focus on trying to capture that texture. And we do this through the use of observational drawing. So when you draw through observation, you are really looking at what's in front of you. You're copying the shapes that you see, the values that you see, the distance and gaps between shapes. You're transferring all the information that you see and you're putting it onto your paper. Not observational drawing would be drawing from your imagination. So not even looking at what's out in front of you and just drawing what you think a knot looks like. And so there's a big distinction between the two. It's obvious when you're drawing from your head versus when you're transferring information, little bits of information that you're observing onto your paper. So I'm highly encouraging that you slow down and only draw what you see. And so here are some student examples that are A quality, so you know what mark to try to hit, of wood, carpet, and pine cones. So I'm going to flip through the examples so that you can see the different approaches that these students took. One thing, though, that you should be aware of when you're drawing something so intricate like carpet is contact points. You draw one piece and you look at how it twists and turns on itself. Once you get that one piece drawn well, then you look at where does the next piece come into contact. So here and here, what angle is that piece at? Draw the shape of that angle and then put the twist in. Well, what hits on that piece of carpet? Another piece right here and right here. What angle is it at? And so those are the conversations that you need to have in your head. Same thing with the pine cone. You draw one piece of the pine cone, and then what hits onto it? Well, another piece hits right here and right here. And then you draw that piece. And then, well, what pieces hit on that one? Well, this one does, right here. And then you go from one piece to the next piece, looking at distances, looking at angles, and looking at the contact points. So I'll flip through these so you can see the examples. You're drawing close-up, larger than life. So it's important to start drawing from observation. Not drawing from observation is just drawing from what you imagine a knot to look like or whatever it is you're drawing, and then you just say, oh, that's a knot. That's an imagined knot, not an observed knot. So all of the information that you need is given to you in that object, and so basically you're like a copy machine. You look at the angles, the values, the distances between the angles, and then you transfer it onto your sheet of paper. So you're going to have to look back and forth, over and over and over again as you're looking at little teeny bits of information. So I'm going to go ahead and start anywhere on the page. You're probably going to be drawing larger than life. If you have a really small knot, you don't want to be drawing forever, so you can blow it up to make it a larger size. So I'm starting with that circle part of my knot. They're not always just round like you would think. There's flat sides, there's, bumps and dips. And then I'm going to go to the next thing I'm going to observe, which is going to be this crack right here. And so I think it's kind of centered in the circle. Not always the case, but this time it is. And I am going to look at the angle of that crack and all the details along the way. And then I'm going to go to the next crack. Look at that angle, and then how close to this edge does it get? So I'm having a whole conversation in my head. So that's why it's not a good idea to have people around you talking to you while you're doing this, because then you can't hear yourself think. And again, I'm looking at the angle. I'm observing it. And just by drawing that line, I looked back at this line at least 3 times to transfer that information. And then I observed that it's kind of a thicker line. And so then I'm going to fill that in, but if it's really dark, I'm going to switch to my ebony pencil because this allows me to get super dark where a number 2 pencil will not. And then I observe that this is a lot darker in this crack. And then there's little tiny cracks along the way, so I can, where do they start? Well, it starts about here. What angle does it go at? And then down. How far were those apart from each other? Where does this one travel to? Where does it connect over here? Little piece coming down. So I'm really, really looking at where does one crack start on what I've already drawn, about right here. And then how big is it compared to the rest? What are all those different details that are going on? Then I can switch back and forth between drawing and shading if I feel comfortable. And so for the darker areas, so I'm calling this a value 3 about how dark I'm getting. I am not smudging. You're not allowed to smudge. I won't grade it. It looks dirty and it's a crutch. You need to learn how to shade smoothly. So I'm doing these little circles. I come out, I revisit, I come out, I revisit. And I would sharpen my pencils, as I go through this project as much as I can, because the finer the point, the smoother that your green is going to be. If I'm shading too low, it's going to get really bumpy looking in texture. But what I do so I don't have to sharpen too much is I rotate my pencil so that I get the point on the pencil to be sharp again, and then I work a little bit with my texture, and then I rotate my pencil again. So whenever I start seeing the texture get too grainy, I rotate my pencil. But then at a certain point, I'm definitely going to have to go and sharpen my pencil. So let's go ahead and continue. So I'm going to do a couple more of these. Now, did you notice that this isn't all one value? And so you got to look and compare one side of a shape to another side. So do you notice how this is a lot lighter? And then there's like a subtle darker value there. You might not have noticed it. If you did, great. You have pretty good observational skills. If not, then you're generalizing too much and you're not looking hard enough for that, the differences in the values. As you continue on with art, you're going to get better and better at seeing details. I'm going to go back on top of this. I'm going to add those darker cracks. And then I'm going to work my way out a little bit. It's easier to draw with your number 2 pencil because it stays lighter. And then I'm going to look at this next shape, this next ring that's going around it, but then it just kind of fades away. And so if that's what's happening, that's how I'm going to draw it. And then I look at the value in that shape and I notice it's darker up here, but it's not as dark as this. So it's more dark on this edge, and then it starts to fade a little lighter as it comes closer to the main knot. And it also fades lighter as we work our way down into this space. So look for value changes. So you're looking at lines and angles, where one thing stops, where another thing begins, the distances between things, value changes. And then I can work my way out to the next knot and repeat this. So I look at that distance, how far away is it? It's a little bit farther away. It comes down, and then shade that piece in and work piece by piece, angle by angle, transferring information a little bit at a time. I'm going to continue this and then fast forward this demonstration to save you some time so you can watch me draw in a quicker pace. The next one I'm going to show you is this pine cone. And so I'm looking at the angles of these lines. I'm looking at the gaps between the two. I'm looking at contact points. So where does one piece of the pine cone touch to another segment of the pine cone? So again, zooming in, picking which one am I going to start with. I'm going to go ahead and start with this one right there. And looking at the angle, drawing it possibly a little larger than life. I'm drawing with my number 2 pencil because it's easier to erase. I'm trying to draw pretty light in case I make mistakes. And then I'm going to go to the next piece and say, well, where does the next branch off? Contact point is right here, so you notice that right there. And then what angle does it go off of? It goes off of that angle. And then what's the next piece? And so the next piece kind of starts right here, goes off at that angle. Where does the other part touch? So contact point, it touches right about here. So that would be right there. And draw it coming out. What angle is it coming off at? Then it turns. Next contact point. This one touches right here. And so I kind of put my fingers in the way. So that looks like I got a little bit too long on this one. So let me chop that down. So I put my fingers to the one that I'm actually working on to help me gain accuracy, or so I don't lose my place. And then this goes back into space, but then it collides with another one. And so maybe I need to start back at the top. On this one, where does this one touch? See, it has like a little wiggly thing. Drawing shape by shape. So back down to this one. What touches on this one? Right here, this one kind of comes out. What angle? And then this one. There's one touching right about there. Coming down and around. And then these ones, it gets kind of dark in there, which when I shade, I can make it pretty dark in there. But I'm really trying to see where those contact points are while I'm drawing. So now I have all my pieces, and I'm going to start to shade. I want to make sure that I get dark where it's dark, see light where it's light, and you can go ahead and start shading wherever you feel like it. I'm going to start to shade in the darkest of the areas. Remember, I'm doing circular pattern. And I revisit, and I come out and I revisit. So the darkest area, I'm going to go to a value 5. So the darkest area is in that crack on this pine cone. And then it starts to get a little lighter. So comparing matching values, and that's all I'm going to do for the rest of this piece. The cool thing about the way that light happens is, if this is my darkest area, this is probably going to be pretty light as it goes down, and that's going to help create contrast because I'll have something really dark next to something really light, and that's going to really make it pop. I'm still rotating my pencil around so I can get into the cracks of the paper. So if it looks splotchy or anything like that. And coming out. Gets lighter. When I have super light values, I can switch to my number 2 pencil. Filling in some of these bumpy spots. It looks more bumpy on the camera than it does in real life. But nonetheless, trying to get rid of any inconsistencies. And then as I get to what I would consider like a value 1 or 2, I'm going to switch to my number 2 pencil. There's a rim of light that I'm observing. So nothing here back is going to be as light as that rim of light. And then blend this out into my ebony pencil.